Dear friends and colleagues from Japan, good morning. On behalf of the co-chairs and the authors of the Global Assessment, I want to thank and congratulate the Ministry of Environment for this initiative to proactively engage with the assessment. I also want to thank three Japanese authors of the assessment, Kazuhiko Ichi, Shizuka Hashimoto, and Osamu Saito, and many reviewers who contribute to the assessment throughout the last 3 years. Thank you very much. Your contribution made this possible. What makes the GA impactful, I believe, is that it tells an integrated story of our pathways of development during the last 50 years, the challenges and opportunities of climate change, and the understanding between the interactions and connections between people, nature, and biodiversity. What makes it interesting, and I think it offers you an opportunity in this discussion today, is that the GA offers many entry points for discussions at different levels. For instance, I like to tell the story of the GA as a story of development pathways. How can we look back 50 years or more to understand how our economy, our relationship to the environment has been progressing? The advances that we have made, and the many inequalities that we have been created, and the challenge that it poses today for us to look forward to the next 10 years in thinking about the Sustainable Development Goals in a new decade of the biodiversity agreements. What I think is interesting about the GA is that it offers many entry points for discussions. As I said, for instance, I like to look at the GA from the point of view of looking at and reflecting on our development pathways. How our decisions about economic development and growth have impacted and benefited from nature. What are the implications for different regions of the world? Why do we see inequality perpetuating through time? And also to think about the responses that we have had in addressing those issues during the past 50 years, in particular during the past 10 years. Another entry point would be to think about the status and trends of biodiversity in nature, the many concerning declines and deterioration that we have documented over the past years, the role of different drivers, the increased teleconnections that creates the challenges and opportunities for us going forward. We have also addressed many of these issues. And one of the things that we look in the GA are the progress and advances that we have made, particularly during the past 20, 30 years, and reflecting on the past 10 years in how we have achieved or not the Aichi biodiversity targets. One of the things that I like to highlight is that we have made enormous advances on many fronts, although we're still trailing back the many challenges and the issues created by current development models around the world. It's important to remind that many of the Aichi targets have contributed to make progress. We have better awareness, we have better national plans, we have better certification schemes, we have advanced significantly on protected areas in marine and terrestrial environments, and so forth. The Nagoya Protocol is another example of advances. But we have a lot to do, and we have a lot to think about what has limited improvement and how can we bridge to a pathway for a more sustainable future as we discuss the new agreements for biodiversity this coming year, 2020. Another entry point to the GA that I consider very important is how it offers systematically throughout the assessment an understanding of the contributions and pressures on indigenous people and local communities. Many of the advances that we have made during the past 10 years have been in partnership and through the contribution of indigenous people and local communities. But as we look forward, these are the communities in areas that continue and will continue to suffer the biggest pressures from commodities and from development pathways and from resource extractions going forward. Another pathway, which is central at this point, is to look at the scenarios chapters in the assessment. Both the scenarios for plausible futures, looking at how the current trends will inform and shape the next decade, but also, and most importantly, the possible futures that we can create together, learning from the advances that we had so far, and thinking about new ways of moving forward together to address the kinds of collective global challenge and regional challenge that we have. I think the GA, one of the important parts of the GA is that it looks at both short-term and long-term actions that we can take in addressing those issues. It takes a serious look at how can we address the direct drivers of change to provide us the energy that we need, the food that we need, maintaining fresh water, and responding to the challenge of climate change through a combination of policy mixes, of integrated management that will support and help to achieve the Sustainable Development Goals. The GA also touches on the very challenging issues of the indirect drivers, and the need for us to start confronting those direct drivers. The norms and values that we hold as society about nature and about each other. The market structure that promotes extraction of resources from farther and farther places without connecting consumers to the impact that they have globally. And the many policies and events that we have in place, but that we can shape in achieving the future that we want. I wish you a very productive day, and I make myself available to engage in this conversation as we go forward. Again, thank you for the opportunity and wishes for a great meeting. Thank you.